Joining us tonight on another wrestling podcast is an amazing talent. He's been wrestling for over a decade and has become a champion nearly every place he's ever worked. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Eric Escobar Perez. Now, thank you so much for joining us, and how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man. Doing my thing little by little as usual, and new projects, new things. Life threw me a couple of curveballs now and here and then, and a couple of blessings in disguise, so to speak, and still alive, doing my thing.
Well, that's great to hear. Here in the United States, I know that there's a lot of wrestling on right now. There's, TNA, there's WWE, there's Lucha Underground, and there's a lot of ways for people to watch professional wrestling. Are you still currently competing today?
On and off. I came back to Puerto Rico a few months after I got released from WWE because, my wife was... she wanted to come back, and I couldn't say no to her at the time because she went through so much with me going to WWE, first Deep South, then FCW, and then eventually the main roster until I got released, and I couldn't say no to her at the time, so we decided to come back, and I worked for Carlos for a little bit for WLUC, as usual, and a lot of people would know about this, money in Puerto Rico is tight, especially in wrestling, and they kind of tend to forget to pay the talent. So, and I'm not above anyone else, but at the same time, if I'm going to work, I expect to get paid. So, you miss 1 week, I get it. You miss 2 weeks, then that's a warning. You miss, 3 weeks, or just give me an excuse for the third one, then I'm out. After that, there was a couple of projects that I work with, and then the one project that I'm working for right now is called WWL, World Wrestling League. We did a couple of shows here in Puerto Rico and a couple of shows in Mexico, and everything was good, but I don't know, the guy just decided to close shop, and then he reopened shop, and then he closed shop again. And then he's planning to reopen the company again. April 30th is going to be the first show. Hopefully, things will go better this time around. He claims that he wanted to trim out, some of the vultures, so to speak. And now he's got a good team behind him, and he's a great guy. He's a long-time wrestling fan. His name is Richard. He owns a couple of businesses here in Puerto Rico, and hopefully things will work out better. He's got a lot of plans. He's got a lot of ideas he wants to put to work. And he wants to do shows in the States, and he wants to do shows in Mexico again, and obviously Puerto Rico. And that's like the one project, wrestling-wise, that I'm working with. Other things that I had on the side were acting, a couple of commercials, TV series, and movies here. Hollywood is coming to Puerto Rico a whole lot. And each time I've been, kind of lucky, I guess, that without having an agency backing me up or getting me all these projects, I've been getting tons of work every time they come down here. I mean, it's only a few days out of the week that, or the entire shooting that they're doing, but still get a decent payday out of that and get some more experience under my belt while they're doing some other things, non-wrestling related.
Now, when you speak about things non-wrestling related and acting, is that something that you've always wanted to do, or just kind of you fell into it now?
To be honest, I've always been intrigued. Like, my main reason why I got into wrestling was because I was always into acting and physicality, physical stuff. I was always playing sports. I only played organized baseball, but I always played touch football with the guys and basketball in school and all that. So I was always into sports and acting. I always felt like that I could I mean, how to explain it? It's one of those things that, just like wrestling, you get to play a character, and you get to have a wrestling match and all that. It's just, same thing with acting. You get to play different characters, get some direction from a director, and just jump into it, and be a different person every time you go out there, And I've always been intrigued by it. I always loved it. So it's something that I was basically looking forward to after my WWE career. I mean, my career did not take off as I expected it, but it is what it is. Make lemons out of lemonade. So I just try to stay active as much as I can with wrestling. But each time that Hollywood comes around, I try to get involved in that as well. I'm also looking for projects in the U.S. and all that, trying to get some more experience and try to get involved, try to get in touch with some agents in L.A. and all that, so I can move around and get some more work done.
Well, you spoke about actors and acting. Who are some of your favorite actors maybe that you have out there?
Wow, favorite actors? I mean, there's so many. To be honest, there's always I could say, oh, this guy's a great actor and all that, but sometimes it's more like the characters that they play, because everybody, if you mention Robert De Niro, everyone's going to go to I think it was Taxi Driver,
yep.
The movie.
Yep.
And, the famous scene, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Or you go to a guy like Kevin Costner, you go to Bull Durham.
Mm-hmm.
And you go to movies like that. It's more about the characters. But if I would say that, there's a bunch of characters out there, a bunch of actors out there that I really, really enjoy. Like Christopher Walken, for one of them. He's so different the way he acts and the way he talks. Whatchamacallit, this guy, Tony Stark, Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
There's a guy that can do it all. He can do serious, he can do thespian, he can do Shakespearean, he can do funny, he can do action. The guy that played the bad guy from Thor, I forget his name all the time. He played Loki.
Oh, Tom Hiddleston?
Yeah, Tom Hiddleston. Yeah, great actor. Oh my God, phenomenal actor. And the way he jumped into the Loki role is oh my God, this guy's scary good.
Yeah.
I recently watched Batman vs. Superman, which was criticized by everyone, and I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you guys? This movie was awesome. And I saw, to me, the guy that stole the show. I mean, the whole movie, the entire movie was phenomenal. I mean, Wonder Woman came out as a badass, and she's kicking ass, and Ben Affleck, oh my God, he looked amazing. He body-wise, he gained so much muscle, and he looked great as Batman. Superman's still Superman, but the one guy that stole the show from me was Jesse Eisenberg. He played Lex Luthor.
Yep.
He was scary good. I'm like, holy crap, this guy, oh my God. I mean, he really stole the show for me. So for me to say that, oh, this guy's my favorite actor, no. It's more oh, this guy can do this great, and this guy will be great for that character and all that. So favorite actors, I will say all of them.
All of them. Awesome. Now,
yeah.
You mentioned that you're still wrestling here and there, and you like acting and trying to get into that. Have you been approached, or have you approached working with Lucha Underground, which kind of, I feel, is pretty much the best of both of those worlds?
Yeah. When they were in the early stages of development of the whole project, I did get in touch with Conan about it. At the time, the guy that I was working for here, we did Triple Mania. That's the WrestleMania in AAA in Mexico. I think it was 2012, if I'm not mistaken. We did that, and I got in touch with some of those guys, and yada yada yada. When they were in the early stages of Lucha Underground, I got in touch with Conan. I talked to him, and he's like, "Look, I'm going to tell you straight out." I'm like, "Yeah, just give it to me straight. I'm an old man. I mean, I know I've been around, and I know Just don't lie to me. Just tell me straight. And he said, okay, I'll give it to you straight. There's no money in this project. I'm like, what do you mean there's no money? Well, and I know there's probably money for the boys and all that. Maybe he's just trying to, like, not work me, but try to, like, kind of like work me into, like, lowering my wages and all that. And I get it. It's a project. It's still, in development, yada, yada, yada. But still, And he told me all these things, and for a while I thought that something was going to happen. I did get in touch with Chris DeJoseph, who was one of the writers in WWE. He went, after he left WWE, he went and was working for Lucha Underground. I don't know if he's still there. And we talked about, me joining and having a clique and a few guys, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, yeah, let's do this, I got some sort of a hookup, so to speak, so I can fly to the States myself, and no charge. I don't have to pay for anything. And I told him, listen, I'm going to do this. I don't expect to get paid $1 million, but if you guys take care of me money wise, I'm down. And but nothing came around. Nothing came about it. Hopefully, I'll be able to get in touch with them again. Now that I'm kind of like restarting again in wrestling.
Absolutely.
And see what happens.
Well, let's talk about kind of the early stages. Did you actually grow up a wrestling fan, or was that something that happened later on in life?
On and off. I wasn't much, like, my dad never took me around the island to do anything. My dad worked for an airline for his entire life, so to speak. So for us to go on vacation was to go to Disneyland or Disney World, like go here and go there and go somewhere in the States. My dad is not the kind of guy, this is camping or something. No, he's not like that. Oh, let's go out. Okay, we're going to go to Disney World. We're going to spend a week in Orlando. So basically, he never took me to anything that happened in Puerto Rico. So it was not like I was a huge wrestling fan growing up because my dad took me to shows or anything. I got invested, so to speak, with Guerrero, Glamorous Ladies of Wrestling. Back when I was a kid, I would watch it in, like, the translation in Spanish, which was awful, by the way. It was brutal, but it was awesome at the same time. I mean, I didn't know any better, so to me it was the most amazing thing ever. And I was like, wow, I was like mesmerized by these girls. I'm like, wow, this is wrestling thing is pretty cool. Then, I grew up. I started watching a little bit of WWF at the time. Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, all those guys, when they were starting, so to speak, when Shawn Michaels was with Jannetty as the Rockers. When Triple H did the Hunter Hearst Helmsley gimmick, when Henry Godwin was there, all those guys. I remember watching all those guys. And it was like an on and off type of thing. It wasn't like I was completely hooked on it. Fast forward a couple of years, I would say when I think Razor Ramon was there, and when Shawn had the feud with Razor for the IC title, stuff like that, that's when I started getting into it again. And, Shawn Michaels started becoming one of my favorites. Oh, Shawn Michaels, this guy's pretty good, Then I remember when The Undertaker came out and all that, and it wasn't still, I was not completely hooked. I would watch it. I would watch almost every show and every pay-per-view, but I wasn't completely hooked. When I really got hooked was in the Attitude Era. That's when everything just clicked for me. I'm like, I want to be like these guys. Stone Cold was on top with The Rock and Triple H and Mick Foley and Taker and all those guys, and DX was there and all. I'm like, wow, this is fucking awesome. I want to do this. This is what I want to do. The fact that Austin will come out and beat his boss on national TV and not get fired, I'm like, this guy is a freaking god. He's living the American dream, the actual American dream, that people want to go to work and beat the crap out of the bosses and not get fired. this is awesome. You know, the Rock would raise an eyebrow and the entire crowd would go crazy. Mick Foley with a sock puppet, just making the crowd go insane. That's when it really clicked for me. That's when I really, really became a fan. I mean, I studied like wrestling history, so to speak, because I wanted to learn more about the past and where this guy came from and where that guy came from, yada, yada, yada. But it wasn't until that time that I really got hooked into the whole wrestling thing, until the Attitude Era.
When you got hooked in it, did anybody, did you go to your parents and say, listen, this is what I want to do? Did anybody try to talk you out of it? How did that work?
No, man. It was something funny because around that same time, it was back in, I went to college in Florida Atlantic University for a semester. I was supposed to play baseball there, but the people that promised me the scholarship, we never signed anything. They got fired or they left or something like that. So when I came in to the school, they were already gone. I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. So I really that's when I started watching like all the shows. It was back in '99, I think. Yeah, back in '99. That's when I really started like, I didn't have anything to do. Just, I didn't have a car, didn't have any money to go out every day. So basically, I just watched wrestling and worked out. I went to the gym and worked out, and I went to school and watched my wrestling. When I moved back to Puerto Rico to continue going to school here in Puerto Rico, I started going to shows with to the local wrestling shows with a friend of mine, IWA. Savio Vega was there with Miguel Perez, and Victor Quiñones, God rest his soul, was the president of the company. So I always had a thing for like cowboy gimmicks. I do remember watching Cowboy Scott Hall doing the cowboy gimmick here in Puerto Rico. I do remember that. And Stan Hansen, I used to remember Stan Hansen. So I always liked like cowboy gimmicks. So I bought myself a cowboy hat, and I went to the wrestling shows wearing my cowboy hat. I was lifting weights, and I thought I was like huge, which I was not. I was still like puny and skinny fat, so to speak. I started going to the shows, and one day, one guy, they see me, and they pulled me aside. Hey, me and my best friend, they pulled us aside. They started talking to us. They said, listen, the president of the company would like to know if you guys are interested in becoming wrestlers. I'm like, dude, we'll be looking for a wrestling school to, see how much it is to start learning and all that. So, yeah, don't worry about that. We'll take care of that. But you guys want to do it? Yeah, sure, no problem. They came to us like 20 minutes later, and they pulled me aside and said, listen, we made a mistake. It wasn't with your friend. It was just with you. I really felt bad about my best friend. But, it is what it is. I jumped to the opportunity right away. Like a few minutes after that, I go to the concession stand, and this guy starts talking to me. And I don't know who this guy is. And he's like, oh, you see that guy over there? I'm like, yeah, he's Canadian. Oh, okay, cool, no problem. Do you know who I am? I'm like, no. I'm Victor Quiñones. I'm the president of the company. I'm like, oh, well, nice to meet you, sir. And then after that, he sent me to train with the guys. And that's how everything started little by little. I got like a few weeks of training, and then the guys disappeared. I heard they got into some, legal trouble, and they had to like disappear for a bit. I'm like, well, this is messed up. And after a while, they just told me, just start coming to the shows earlier. After they set up the ring, and we'll get someone there with you so you can train. And they did. Miguel Perez started getting in the ring with us and training us little by little, and that's how everything started. Slow process of learning how to, start to work.
After or prior to that, did you have something else kind of lined up that you wanted to do? Or, if wrestling didn't work out, or once you kind of got it in your mind that you wanted to wrestle, that was all that was on your mind?
No, that was all that was on my mind. After I tore out my shoulder playing baseball. So basically, I can't throw a ball more than 3 or 4 times before my shoulder starts bothering me again. So baseball was out the window. So I'm like, I'm just gonna try this wrestling thing because I really, really enjoy it. And that was it. That's all I wanted to do. I got a bunch of waitressing jobs, and I was still going to college, and did everything I had to do to be able to afford. I lived with my parents, so I didn't have to pay rent or anything like that. But I always chipped in at the house.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever jobs I could get, I would pitch in the house, and the whole wrestling thing. Like my parents, they didn't know about it. At that time, my dad was he asked for a transfer. There was another position available in Atlanta. So he went to Atlanta for a bit, and my mom went with him. So I had the house to myself. One day, we were doing, without me knowing how to actually wrestle, one of the guys that kind of, helped me started, getting trained, he had a wrestling show. So allegedly he tells me that he told the promoter that he was going to use me for a show and not. Well, something went wrong, and me being green, and I didn't know, I got pushed into a trash can, and I hit my forehead with the edge of the trash can and split my forehead right open. I was bleeding, and they said, "Oh, this is going to look great on TV." I'm like, okay. Oh, whatever. So they filmed it and all that. I go home, I put a Band-Aid on and try to cover it up. I tell my mom the lamest excuse. I was working as a waiter in the restaurant, in this one restaurant, and there was actually a handrail of the stairs that was loose, and it had like a sharp edge. So I told my mom, I slipped and split my forehead open with the edge of the handrail. She did not buy it, but she went with it just because. And as soon as she goes to Atlanta to see my dad, the first thing that she says, "I think Eric got into wrestling." And they didn't tell me about it. They didn't say anything. They just let me be. And that was it. After a while, it was like, they kind of got into it until I started really getting beat up and getting color in the shows and all that crap. That's when they really got upset. It's like, you shouldn't be doing that. You got to get that. But to me, it was all part of the learning process. So I let it happen. Now, 15 years later, 16 years later, now I know better. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Now, you, at this time, like you said, you're kind of new to the business, you're breaking in. Were there any times while this was going on that you said that, I think I'm in over my head, I should probably quit, or did you just really, dive in head first and enjoy all the aspects of training?
There were times where I doubted. There were times where I went in this is a little bit too much. This is getting out of hand. Because I noticed that there were some guys that they didn't want me in the company. They did not want me to get into wrestling. They had that old school mentality. And they bit me in the worst ways. They beat me up in the ring in the worst ways. And I just whatever, bring it. I would come home, black eyes, split forehead, 16 stitches, messed up shoulder, messed up back, kendo sticks, marks all over my back. And that's when I started, once I started reading the wrestling books, the autobiographies that came out, and I saw some of the stuff that the guys went through, and I started looking online and this and that, yada, yada, yada. I heard the stories about breaking kayfabe and all these guys coming in and breaking in and the old school guys beating them up, trying to either scare them so they wouldn't get in the business or try them out and test them and see they were tough enough to handle it. I'm like, I was taking it like, okay, are they trying to test me? Are they trying to like make me quit? Up to a certain point where I know they're trying to make me quit, but I did not care. I was fully determined. As soon as I started wrestling, I knew that I wanted to go to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Plain and simple. I mean, there's no denying that if you get in this business, it's because eventually you want to make a living, and a good one at that. So whoever says, oh yeah, I got into wrestling because I love the territories and I love, working in front of 50, 60 people, that's the biggest, lamest, biggest bullshit you will ever hear from anyone.
Yeah.
You don't get this business because you want to work in front of 100 and in front of 50 people. You wanna go to the football stadiums with WWE. You want to main event WrestleMania. You want to be the person in charge of putting 90,000 people in a stadium. That's the only reason that anyone gets involved in this business, because why else would you get beat up and go through the shit that we have to go through if not for that?
Well, you just mentioned WWE, and I know that, I did research and looked into you wrestling before you got to WWE, but it looks like, at least on this end, that your transition from Puerto Rico to WWE really wasn't that long of a transition. You came up pretty quickly.
Yeah, because I've always had this thing, and that's one of the things that it cannot be taught. You can't learn that from someone teaching you. When they say, oh yeah, if you stand in front of a crowd, just picture them in their underwear and you feel comfortable in that. I mean, to me, that's total bullshit. I don't think that works at all. Try to make people calm. I mean, I've always been calm in front of like large crowds, and no one can ever say that I did not see a large crowd before I got to WWE. I have a story about that I'll tell you later on. Working here in Puerto Rico, when IWA was at its peak, the average house was like 3,500, 5,000 people. That was on a regular basis, on a weekly show. I got to a show where we filled out this baseball stadium. It was like 13,000 people. So to me, being in front of like large crowds has always been like something that I'm very comfortable with, and like talking and speaking in front of a crowd, very, very, very comfortable with it too. I was not taught how to cut a proper wrestling promo here in Puerto Rico. I did what I saw on TV, watching WWE and watching the classic old school Puerto Rico style of promo. I would try to combine the two a little bit, try to make up, my own style. And the reason is, here's the difference between territories and WWE. Territories build wrestlers. WWE builds superstars. You wanna use the wrestling platform to become a superstar, because a superstar is who you want to put in a movie or in a TV series, and that's eventually not everyone's goal, but I guarantee you that everyone after WWE, they want to have a movie career like The Rock. I guarantee you that. If you ask the entire WWE locker room, what do you want to do after wrestling? Well, 90% of them, they will say, yeah, I would like to become an actor. It's the next logical step. You don't want to get beat up until you're like 60 or 70. You want to get out of that, be a celebrity. An A-lister like The Rock himself. Come on, really? If not, you want to run for office. And you're still in the public eye. You're still somewhat of a superstar. That's when WWE, that's where they excel, because they make superstars. They don't make wrestlers. They make superstars. It's sports entertainment. It's not pro wrestling. for them. It's sports entertainment. You know, I see guys doing movies. I heard that Dolph Ziggler was doing like stand-up. Mick Foley's doing stand-up, and the other guy's doing this, and the other guy's doing that, because that's the next logical step.
Well,
you know, so that's why my transition was like a little bit easier for a lot of guys, than compared to a lot of guys, because I've always seen it as the spectacle that it is. I never saw it as pro wrestling.
Well, you actually were in Deep South wrestling as well, which was kind of a precursor to FCW and NXT. What were your thoughts on Deep South? And, you know, obviously they talk a lot about the Performance Center these days and what a great facility it was. Were you getting any of that in Deep South, or was it kind of just what it was, just like a gritty kind of place?
Deep South was the early stage, not the early stages, because the early stages of developmental system were when Edge and Christian and those guys were in the developmental system. They got paid like, you know, X amount of money, and they trained in Stamford, Connecticut at WWE's, where they filmed Tough Enough, the tracks, what it was called, I think it was.
Yeah, yep.
But it was like it was just a place to go train and do like a weekly show, and hopefully they will get like, you know, more house shows and all that, so you can harness your skill and develop your skills a lot better, so you can, you know, get ready for the main stage, which was WWE. The place was, I think, was great. I had never been trained like properly. Like I said, you know, the guys that started training me kind of disappeared, and I learned on the job, so to speak. 5 years into wrestling, that's when I got hired back in 2005, and I couldn't do some basic moves. And Bill DeMott questioned me. He's like, "So you've been working for how long, and you don't know how to do this?" And then that's when I told him my whole story. So listen, you know, I started training, and the guys that started training me disappeared because they got in trouble with, you know, some legal troubles, and they disappeared. And he's like, "Oh, okay." So that's when I started, like, he started teaching me, you know, from basically from the basics, so I could learn the proper way. I think it was just, if you compare it to what the Performance Center is, it has been like an evolving type of thing, because they shut down Deep South. They moved some guys to FCW. They moved some guys to OVW, and then not long after that, they shut down OVW, and they shipped everyone to FCW. I guess they wanted to have not a bunch of territories, but just like one big developmental facility, which is what NXT is right now. But I think it was like a huge stepping stone from what Deep South was and OVW was to what FCW became. And then it was like another huge step from FCW to NXT. So it has been like an evolving process.
Well, during that time, you got to work with like a you know, basically a who's who of wrestlers. Did you have any specific people that you really enjoyed working with back in your either Deep South or FCW days?
Well, the first guy that I didn't work with him, but he was the booker in Puerto Rico, was Dutch Mantell and Luke Williams from the Bushwhackers. And they would tell me stories, and I really enjoyed it. But they had this old school mentality. They were not there to teach me. They were there to write, you know, to book the shows. So they had that old school mentality. And Dutch Mantell did give me a good piece of advice. And he's like, "You see that chair right there? You grab that chair right there, and you sit down and you watch every match from the show." And that's how you start to learn. And to be honest, it kind of clicked. Little by little, but it kind of clicked. Then I went to work for Carlos, and I didn't really get to work with a whole lot of people that I just, they threw me around with the locals for the most part. I did get to work Abdullah the Butcher once, and that was a thrill because a friend of mine, my best friend, was like a huge fan. And I called him up that day and said, listen, I work in Abbey. He's like, are you really? I'm like, yeah. Oh, that's fucking awesome. That's fucking great. What are you going to do with him? And I don't know. Whatever he wants, whatever he says that we can do. I don't know. So it was like a big thrill for me. But that was like the only guy that I worked with. Then when I went to Deep South, it was pretty much with the same guys that I trained with. But I did see the early stages of like Kofi Kingston and The Miz was there. Mike Knox was there. Ryan O'Reilly, who was part of the Ascension, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was there too. Those are the guys that I do remember. Great Khali got his start there in Deep South as well. What's his name now? Oh my God, he's in the Bullet Club and he's in the tag team. Drew Hankinson.
Yes, Gallows.
Luke Gallows, yeah. He was there as well. And then in FCW, who did I get to work in FCW? Oh my God, Dolph Ziggler, Wade Barrett, Drew McIntyre. I got to work with Sheamus a lot. Basically, most of some of the top guys in WWE right now. I saw Big E when he started in FCW. Let's see. When I started doing the trips with ECW and SmackDown, I did get the pleasure of working one entire weekend with Brad Armstrong, God rest his soul. Oh my God, he was a true gentleman, in and out the ring, the nicest guy, and oh my God, he could work. He was phenomenal in the ring, so smooth. I mean, it was like a great weekend for me that weekend. So yeah, I will have to say that was one of my top guys. I mean, I got to work with Jericho and Big Show and Kane and all those guys in the main roster, but the one guy that I do remember that I mean, you get to learn more when you do house shows than you do TV. Because TV, you gotta, you do TV. You gotta go out there and you gotta put on the show for the TV. But when you do house shows, you get to sit down and relax a little bit more and talk to these guys and go over your match and do what you gotta do, and you get to pick their brain a little bit. And I do remember that weekend with Brad Armstrong was phenomenal. And he actually trained us a little bit too in Deep South. Yeah. He was there helping out when Bill DeMott got released the first time around. Tom Pritchard came in, and Brad came in from time to time to help out. So yeah, Brad Armstrong. I will have to say Brad Armstrong was like the guy.
When you were in Florida Championship, obviously you mentioned people like Sheamus and a few other people that now are kind of their own character. But was there a lot of that going on down there? A lot of character development? I'm curious because I want to know kind of how or what they had kind of in store for you. Like what was being thrown around for you at that time?
Well, they were, since the beginning with me, they always liked me as a heel. I did a tag team with MVP. They tried that out. Then Sonny Siaki pulled me aside and said, listen, he told me that allegedly Dusty Rhodes, God bless him, called him up and they had worked together in TNA. He said, Dusty wants me to tag with you. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we tried this in TNA with me and Apollo. We tagged for a bit. He likes that combination. He's got, he's got some stuff for us. Allegedly, that's what he tells me. So we started, tagging, and we had a good run. It could have been better, but, Then we got transferred to FCW. I go to FCW, and I'm kind of like floating around. I injured my back, and I had to go get surgery, but I did not know at the time that I needed the surgery. I think it was, I can't remember which year it was, but I injured my back. I had to get surgery. Between the time that I left to have the surgery and came back, they still had like nothing for me. Just, go out there and do your thing and yada, yada, yada. And then Primo came in. When Primo came in, that's when things are, okay, we'll put, Eric and Primo together. Let's see how that happens. And we were Eric Perez and Eddie Colon. We were called the Puerto Rican Nightmares. They put Angela Fong, or Miss Angela, I don't know what name she's going by right now. I know she's in Lucha Underground right now. They put her with us, and it was like a strange, weird combination, but it worked. We made it work. At first, we were supposed to be heels, and we tried. Oh my God, did we try? We would sit down with Dr. Tom. Hey Doc, how can we make the fans hate us? And we tried everything, every cheating tactic, every old school cheating tactic, everything that we could try to do to get heat. But people were not buying it. They were cheering for us. So they eventually just gave up. Him and Doc just went, whatever, just let them be baby faces. So we were like the only babyface tag team in FCW at the time. And that's when Drew McIntyre and Wade Barrett came in. They had Dolph Ziggler with Brad Green, I think was his name. Brad Attitude. And they had a tag team. What else? There was another tag team there, too. Oh, it was Tyson Kidd and D.A. Smith. Mm-hmm. So they did the tag team. And Heath Slater and Steve Lewington were another tag team. So they did the tag team tournament, and they put us there to win the tag titles for the first tag team, FCW tag team champions. So we win the titles, and then they started trying to develop some other tag teams, babyface tag teams to mix it up a little bit. But not everything they tried did not click. Since Primo and I worked as a tag team in Puerto Rico, and we knew each other, and we had the Spanish to our advance, we would speak Spanish to each other, and everything just flew. I mean, the flow of things was amazing. So they just decided to okay, we're going to take the title from Eric and Eddie, and we'll give it to these guys, and then it'll come back to Eric and Eddie because they got to pass it to the other two guys. And I think we were like 3 or 4 time FCW tag champions. So at the time, we had a good chemistry in the ring, and they saw that. When Primo gets called up, allegedly the idea that they had for me, this is what they told me, was that Primo and Carlito were going to get in trouble with Legacy, and since Legacy were 3 or 4 of them, I was going to come in to be the equalizer.
Okay.
But then obviously, the fourth guy would be Randy, who'll come in and, we get the run from them, and eventually we'll go separate ways, yada, yada, yada. So they bring Primo in, and then they go, no, let's put him with Carlito, and they send him to SmackDown, so the angle was kiboshed. So I'm stuck in FCW, no direction, so to speak. There were some naysayers that they thought I was not going to be able to do it, but Dusty said, let's give him the ball. Let's do something with him. I mean, he's got that Pedro Morales type of fire in the ring, and he doesn't look like a bodybuilder, but he doesn't look like a big fat piece of crap either.
Yeah.
He looks good, but he still looks different. And that's when they decided to go with me and give me the push that they gave me, the FCW title. And to be honest, that was like the highlight of my career. That was like, to have a guy like Dusty Rhodes and Dr. Tom and Steve Kerr and go like, this is gonna be my guy, even though this is like, like the little leagues of the minor leagues of the big leagues, but still, this is gonna be my guy, and we did good. I mean, I think we did. They did some decent business with me. And they gave me the ball, they gave me that trust, and that was like the best I've ever felt. And that was the direction they wanted me to go, to be this fiery, Pedro Morales type of Puerto Rican wrestler. Doing the Spanglish thing, going back and forth between Spanish and English, and that's everything just was great. I thought at that time everything was perfect, but still no anything from the main roster in the WWE. So that's when, Dusty just kind of like snapped at them and said, listen, I had this guy for over X amount of time, and he's been ready forever. What are you guys going to do with him? And, the rest is history.
Well, with, you just mentioned that you were Eric Perez, and then at some point, your name changed to Escobar, Eric Escobar. Was there any personal significance to that name? We've heard how WWE has tried to name people over the years. Was that a decision on your part, or was that a decision by WWE?
No, it was a WWE decision. I mean, they told us like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times, they told us to like write a list of like 10 to 15 names that we would like to use. I wrote, let's be straight here. I'm not going to beat around the bush about it. I enjoy a good stereotype if it's done in a funny way, like, like a comedian like Kevin Hart or Cat Williams would use a stereotype because it's funny. It's entertainment. I don't get offended by that. So WWE is no different. They like stereotypes. It's exactly what the New Day is doing. Stereotypical, stereotypical African Americans. They come out, they're loud, and yada yada yada. It's funny. It's entertainment. I get it. I guess they went with the Escobar name because it's like one of the most famous Latino names in history because of Pablo Escobar.
Okay.
I guess that's why I did write it on the list of names. I wrote Eric Montana, of like Tony, Scarface Montana. I wrote Alejandro Perez, which is my dad's name. I wrote Eric Alejandro, which is my real name, but my middle name is Alexander, so it's Alejandro in Spanish. I wrote Eric Escobar, Pablo Perez, every Paco Ramon, every single name you could think of, I wrote there. So eventually, I guess they saw Eric Escobar and they went with it, and it was out of the blue. I went on a loop of shows, and when I got to TV, oh, you have a dark match tonight. And when they announced me, oh, Eric Escobar, I'm like, oh, I guess I got a new name. and that was it. By the time I got to FCW, so Dusty comes up to me with the list. So they tell me they changed your name, so you Eric Escobar now. That's cool. That's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. I like it.
Now, it seems to me like, and we've only got a couple more questions for you because I know you're very busy, but you spoke about how kind of you weren't really told much, and you just mentioned that you came out to the ring and didn't even know your name was changed. You got kind of put with Vickie Guerrero, which was, I thought, really cool, and it finally, to me, started to seem like there was some traction with you and the wheels were in motion. You started working with her in 2009. Was that something that was planned, or once again, was that something that was just kind of, hey, by the way, this is happening?
Again, hey, this is happening. I remember I got to that TV. I had spoken to John Cena for the entire weekend. Like, he was giving me tips and all that. Regardless of what you think of the guy, I never had any problems with the guy. He was very, very nice to me. He was class act with me. He actually told me, he said, listen, if you ever want any advice, just pull me aside and ask me to watch your match. He would always watch everyone's matches, and he was always like very, he wants to be that guy who gives back and helps, develop the future of the company. He's always looking for like new opponents, obviously, but, anyways, I do remember that, Jamie Noble started talking to me. He's like, so you got your stuff right? And I'm like, no. What are you talking about? It's like, oh, they haven't told you? I'm like, no. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. I'll be right back. And he leaves, and he doesn't say anything. 5 minutes later, Ricky Steamboat, same deal. So they told you what you're doing tonight? I'm like, no. Well, what's going on? He's like, oh, they didn't say anything? I'm like, no. Okay, I'll be right back. And I'm thinking I'm getting ribbed. I'm like, okay, I'm getting ribbed. Like, I'm going to end up with Big Dick Johnson in the ring, and I'm going to be wearing a thong. And, oh, my God. And then, like, Mae Young is going to come out, and then I have to make out with Mae Young or something like that is going to happen. I don't know. Which I was totally down with. I mean, at that point, I didn't really care. John Cena comes up to me. He's like, hey, you got your deal for tonight? I'm like, what's going on? I have no fucking clue what's going on. Oh, they didn't say anything? I'm like, no, well, don't fuck it up. I'm like, what do you want me to not fuck up? I mean, I don't know shit what's going on. And no one told me until they finally pulled me aside. It's like, you're going to be Vickie Guerrero's boyfriend. I'm like, okay, that's fucking cool. Well, why didn't anyone say anything? Well, they were still going over some details, and then I see Vickie finally. I had already said hello to her and all that. Now I know what's going on, so I see Vickie. So I told her, I'm like, oh, so you know what's going on tonight? She's like, yeah, they told me that I'm going to be some guy's girlfriend. I'm like, that's me. Nice to meet you. I'm Eric. And that was it. It was a SmackDown anniversary show, and I think The Rock was filming the other guys, and he cut a promo they put on the Titantron and all that. It was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool show.
Well, with that, you started out with Vickie, and we've kind of talked about if creative had ideas for you or whatever, but one thing that kind of got to me is that there was really never any backstory, I guess, or explanation of your character then with Vickie. Was there anything being tossed around, or was this just kind of, once again, the same thing where they put you guys together, but they didn't really have an idea of what to do with you?
Exactly. It was exactly that. They put us together, and that was it. They had like no backstory and all that. And Vickie and I would talk about it. I'm like, how did we meet? I mean, how did everything happen? And she's like, I have no idea. And no one ever. I mean, we pitched ideas between Vickie and I, and we talked to someone. I can't remember who it was. Well, we did talk to someone. It's like, maybe we could, film some vignettes of we had like some vacation or something. Vickie went on vacation. I was a little cabana boy or something like that, and we kind of felt for each other. And, that's how the whole thing started. And maybe we can throw some twists here where, some like con artists are trying to like con her into trying to get a job with WWE or something like that. Or maybe she's conning me into bringing me in as an excuse so she can come back to SmackDown. I mean, there are so many things that we could have done with the character and the storyline and everything. But again, they had like, let's put them together and let's see what happens. It was kind of those deals.
Okay.
And that was it. I mean, they had I don't think they had any long-term plans of with me and Vickie.
Well, like I said, I wanna let you get going here. I got just two more questions for you. You've been very upfront and honest with us today. It's amazing. I loved learning more about you, and I wish you nothing but the best. Point blank, if I asked you right now, you departed from WWE in 2010. Is a WWE return out of the question for you? Like if they contacted you tonight, tomorrow, and asked you to come back, would you go back?
To be honest, I would, but it would have to be we would have to really, really sit down and talk about it. We don't get any younger, especially in wrestling. We age like dogs, so to speak. Under the WWE umbrella, you're well taken care of. They got doctors and trainers and all that. And I did have a tryout last year. I will tell you complete honesty. My heart and my mind were not into it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did talk to the bot, and he's like, would you like to come in for a tryout? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. Could it be a few months from now? My wife gave birth in 2012 to triplet baby boys.
Oh, congratulations!
So, thank you very much. So I have three beautiful baby boys and 3.5 years old. So they are the center of my universe right now. So my life revolves around them. I go to my job, I go to work, and I cannot wait to come home and play with my kids. I mean, they're at school by the time I get off work and all that, but I want to come, go pick them up at school and play with them and be with them all day. So if by any chance, if the stars and the planets align themselves and Triple H and now that Shane McMahon is back, that I saw that, if anyone decides, hey, we got Primo and Epico together, let's see if we can contact Carlito and Escobar and we'll make like a Latino clique, like Los Boricuas 2016, so to speak. Yeah, I'll be open to the prospect of a return, but like I said, we'll have to really sit down because I don't really want to be traveling so much and be away from my kids for so long. If it was something that, you can do the TVs and you do like a loop of house shows every month, and then you can do the international tours. Like the Latino part of it. Well, every time we go to Central America and South America, you can go to those, and just keep it like in the light schedule, so to speak. Yeah,
absolutely,
definitely. But to go full on every day of the week, almost like 3 to 4 days a week, just being out of my house and not seeing my kids and all that, it'll be kind of hard for me though to be able to do that.
Okay. All right. Well, we like I said, we thank you so much for coming on today. I think that we've got a lot left to talk to you about, and hopefully we can get you back someday. But for people that are listening to this right now and want to know more about you or want to be able to follow you on, do you have social media or anything that people can find you on?
Yeah, I just recently opened a Facebook page for Eric Escobar. Just looking under Eric Escobar, you see a picture of me back in my WWE days. Also, any promoters out there who want to do business and all that, they can contact me at Eric Escobar Eric Escobar 8712. Yeah, 8712 at gmail.com. Or you can find me on Twitter at eperez8712. Those are the ones that I use the most. Also, I would like to say shout out to my boy. I forgot his name now. Tyrus. He was Funkasaurus in WWE.
Yeah, Brodus Clay.
Brodus Clay, yeah, Tyrus, my boy. He's my friend. We stay in touch from time to time. We have a weird type of relationship and a weird type of sense of humor, but we get each other. He's my boy. He's my friend. He's one of the very few true friends that I do have. Tyler Rex is another one of them. Heath Slater, he's kind of lost, but you know, I still consider him a friend. And Tyson Kidd was always, you know, being class act with me and stayed in touch with me from time to time. And, you know, anybody who I haven't mentioned, Rory from the Highlanders, and so, you know, we stay in touch all the time. We talk all the time. Wade Barrett, Drew McIntyre, all them guys, you know, all the guys in WWE that remember me. You know, shout out to you guys. Hope you guys are doing well. Your families are doing well. Your careers are doing well. Dr. Tom, Steve Kern, Norman Smiley. I love Norman Smiley. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. And Bill DeMont also. And, you know, anyone that I forgot, my bad.
Well, we're like I said, I think that we've got plenty of material to have you on again. I'm hoping for nothing but the best for you. You seem like one of the nicest people that we've spoken to, and I just can't thank you enough for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me.